Hi, I'm Emily of British Girl Bakes, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to decorate this easy Harry Potter cake. I'm starting by preparing my decorations. This is the cake pan I'll be using for my cake, and I'm using it to guide me on the size of my decorations. I'm going to be using these round cookie cutters to cut out the frames of Harry Potter's glasses, using black fondant mixed with a generous pinch of tylose powder to make the fondant dry quickly and to make it hard, so it holds its shape. For my tutorial and recipe on how to make your own fondant, click the link in the top of the screen, or I've put it in the description below the video. I'm rolling it out thinly, cutting 2 circles with the larger cookie cutter, and then cutting the centers out with my slightly smaller cookie cutter to leave the frames behind. I'm cutting a semicircle out of one of the centers with the same smaller cookie cutter, and trimming the ends to make the bridge over the nose on the glasses. Cutting out a rectangle for the handles, and trimming it to make 2 handles with the ends bending downwards. I'm arranging these to check that everything fits together nicely, but because the pieces are so delicate and I don't want them to break apart later, I'm letting everything dry separately and I'll put it together on the cake at the end. I am attaching the bridge to the eye frames with a bit of water to make it stick, to make sure this part of the glasses is level when I assemble it on top of the handles. I'm making a wand next, and this is very simple. I'm using 2 little balls of fondant and rolling out one of them to make the handle, checking the size on my cake pan to see how much room I have left for the wand, and then rolling out a long pointed section, which I'm attaching to the handle with a bit of water on a paintbrush. This will need to dry for about 24 hours before moving it so that it doesn't fall apart, but without moving it I can still paint it to make it look like wood. So I'm using some brown gel colour to brush a few strokes in random places on the wand, and then adding vodka to the gel to make a thin paint to brush over the wand, leaving the coverage streaky to imitate the grain of wood. For a golden snitch, I'm checking how much space I'll have on the cake pan to choose the size of the ball and the wings, and then rolling a ball out of yellow fondant, which is easier to paint gold than using white fondant. I'm rolling another piece of fondant out quite thinly, and it's really important to mix this with tylose powder so you don't have droopy wings. I'm cutting one wing out with a pizza cutter, and then placing it on top of another piece of fondant and tracing around it with the pizza cutter so that both wings are the same shape and size. Poking a toothpick into each one for support later, and then using a sharp knife to indent the feathers in the wings, starting at the bottom of the wing and indenting to make a sort of scalloped shape, and then angling the knife to continue the indent all the way up to the top of the wing. I'm poking a toothpick through the middle of the ball now to make a pathway for the toothpicks in the wings, because the fondant ball is going to dry and harden and it will be difficult to poke a toothpick in when that happens. I'm using gold sheen to paint the wings, and this makes more of a glaze than a paint, so I'll have to paint a few coats and let them dry in between each coat. It's quicker to use gold luster dust mixed with a drop of clear alcohol, but I've run out, so I'm substituting this instead. I'm painting every surface of the wings because they'll all be visible eventually, getting into the sides, and then when the fondant hardens, I'm poking the toothpicks into a little styrofoam block so I can reach the back, doing a few coats to get a nice golden colour. When the paint dries, I'm trimming the toothpicks and poking both wings into the ball, using the hole I made earlier. And there's my golden snitch! I wanted to incorporate some lettering in the recognisable Harry Potter font, so I printed off a message using the font which I found on Google, and I'm tracing it onto a piece of wax paper. You can use parchment paper, but this wax paper is more transparent, so it's easier to see the letters through it. I'm flipping the paper over, melting chocolate tinted with black gel colour, and spooning it into a Ziploc bag, and cutting off one of the corners, and squeezing the chocolate out to trace over the back of the letters. I'll slide a cutting board underneath the wax paper when I finish, to move the letters into the fridge to set. If you're enjoying this tutorial, please click the thumbs up button, and subscribe to my channel for a new cake decorating tutorial every week. Remember to click the notification bell so you don't miss one. Moving on to my cake, I'm starting with a crumb-coated cake and I've decided to cover it with stripes in the colours of Gryffindor, So I'm applying yellow buttercream first, and this is my 4-minute buttercream, and I've put the link in the description below this video. I'm using a striped cake comb to indent grooves in the buttercream. I'm not smoothing out the top of the yellow frosting, but instead leaving it as an uneven ridge, which you can see here, and I'll show you why in a minute. Then chilling the cake for about 30 minutes in the fridge to set these stripes, and then spreading red buttercream over the top. I've used Americolor Red gel colour to tint this buttercream and let it sit out for about half an hour to get this deep shade of red. Now I'm using a frosting smoother to wipe off the smudged frosting to reveal these neat stripes underneath. And if you're looking for a very detailed tutorial on the 4 secrets of cake stripes, click the link in the top of the screen, or I've put it in the description below as well. I'm leaving the top uneven until the next step, chilling the cake again for a few minutes to set the red frosting, and then using a sharp knife to trim off the uneven frosting at the top. And what this does is expose the neat rings of yellow and red frosting around the top of the cake, which makes a fun border. Because the frosting has been chilled, you can scrape off any smudges with your knife without damaging the frosting. And since the red buttercream stains the white buttercream so easily, this is a really useful thing to be able to do. I'm using a paper towel to wipe off any smudges of buttercream from the cake board, and now I'm ready to add my decorations. First, the glasses, starting with the handles, and I've cut the second one in half so it will lie flat around the other one. I'm playing around a bit with the placement, and again using my knife to tidy up any smudges or indents I've created on the frosting. When I'm ready to add the eyepieces, I'm brushing the backs with a bit of water to make them sticky, and then pressing them gently on top. Putting the wand over here, and placing my message down here to leave room for the golden snitch. The letters are really fragile, and one of them breaks apart, so I'm lifting it off with my offset spatula, and I'll pipe another one onto my wax paper, let it set, and add that at the end. Finally, the golden snitch, and sorry about the angle here with my arm in the way. I'm adding a few gold pearl sprinkles around the cake as a finishing touch, and there it is! A Harry Potter cake that's quick and easy to decorate, perfect for any Harry Potter fan.